Hey guys, I hope everything's going well for you. Let's talk about some different types of paints today. So there's a bunch of different types of paint. We're going to talk about tempera paint, fresco paint, oil paint, watercolor paint, acrylic paint, and ink, and why artists choose those types of media to paint with. So first, let's talk about tempera. Tempera is a pigment bound by egg yolk. So way back in the 13th, 14th century, did they have Hobby Lobby and Michaels? No. If you were a painter, you were also a chemist because you were trying to mix up anything and everything you could find to make paint. They tried blood, they tried urine, they tried all kinds of things to make paint. Well, they found that if you used egg yolks and mixed it with certain powders of different colors and stuff like that, or gold flecks, that it would make a pretty good paint. It would stick pretty well. So they invented tempera paint. The colors, when they dry, are slightly flat. They used to paint on wood panels, so it would stick to the wood fairly well and allows for that gold ornamentation. And there were hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands of paintings done of the Madonna and Child, or Mary and Jesus. Why do you think there were so many done back in the 13th and 14th centuries? Who had all the money? The church. Okay, so either you get a bunch of portraits of kings and queens who had all the money, or you get a bunch of church paintings. But the artist kind of, even though they're being paid by the church, kind of put their own flair on different parts of the painting. So, I've seen a bunch of these in person. There's just thousands of them all over the world, of these Madonna and Child paintings. This is just not what I picture in my head when I think of Jesus, okay? I just don't think of Jesus as a balding white man. But if the priest or whatever is paying the artist to paint these paintings, what do you think the priest is telling the artist? They want them to paint their face as Jesus sometimes, okay? Or an angel in the corner or whatever. So that's why a lot of these Madonna and Child paintings have Jesus not pictured the way a divine creature, I say, would look. This one's one of my favorites because that does not look like the face of someone perfect without sin, does it? And he's giving mom a little squeeze here, which is just weird to me. I mean, like, can you imagine this hanging up at Walker Baptist Church? I just can't. I can't see delivering this painting and be going like, oh, let's put it up in the front, okay? No. I just don't get it. This one's also very interesting. So this is Saint Lucy. What do you think she's the patron saint of? Yeah, this is not a flower. These are eyes, okay? So she's the patron saint of blindness. She has a really interesting story. If you go to Catholic.org and look up Saint Lucy, they'll show you the whole story there. You can become a saint by proving that you perform some miracle. So her miracle is that she was supposed to get married to this guy that her family picked out, because remember, you don't get to pick out who you're going to marry. Your mom and dad do that. And she begged and pleaded, please don't make me marry this old guy. I'll go be a nun. I'll go do anything else. And they're like, nope, you're getting married to him. So she said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to marry him. And so he said, well, then you're going to have to be put to death. So they tied her up, poured oil all over, and lit her on fire. But according to legend, she did not burn. So he said, okay, gouge her eyes out, and then stab her to death. So then she did die. But, I mean, pretty interesting story about St. Lucy. Next one, fresco. So, pigment dissolved in lime water and applied to wet plaster. That color is bound into the plaster forever. There's no room for error because that plaster dries pretty quickly, and it'll last as long as the wall itself. So this is what Michelangelo used when he painted this the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He used fresco paint. And so that's pretty amazing that he got all these details and stuff in here. And it's going to be in the wall forever, the ceiling forever. Remember we thought that back in the early 90s, we thought that the ceiling was a lot of dull colors because of all the soot on the ceiling. Then they cleaned it and they found that he used a lot of very bright colors. So that fresco is going to be there forever as long as we take care of it. Oil. So a mixture pigment of linseed oil, varnish, and turpentine. And this produces the greatest range of richness and subtlety of color, but it dries very slowly, so it's easy to work with. It's a very wet canvas. If you ever watch Bob Ross, if you ever need to like cool down a minute and like get your blood pressure down, go look up Bob Ross on Netflix, okay? He uses oil paint. I don't like to use oil paint because it's a pain in the butt to clean up, but it is very pretty and it makes these subtle skin tones very, very pretty. Except it almost makes them too lifelike. So this is the Madonna with the, guess what, long neck. And she does have like a super long neck. It is very weird. This painting freaked a lot of people out when it came out in the early 1500s. For one, like, these are supposed to be like angel cherub kind of things. And like, she's got some like Angelina Jolie legs sticking out here. Jesus right here to me looks like E.T. when he's like sick. Did you ever watch that movie E.T.? And when he turns sick and all white and stuff, that's what he looks like to me. And so it was very unsettling. It's almost like their skin was translucent, and she has a really long neck, which is freaky, for conservative audiences. And like, who's the dude down here at the bottom? I don't know. Very, very weird. So this is a Da Vinci oil painting. This is the only Da Vinci I've ever seen in person. There's only like 14 of his works of art ever, and most of them are in Florence or in France. But this one's in America. This one's at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. So when they took it out of the frame to clean it, they also found a painting on the back too. So when they reframed it, they put it in a frame so you can see the front and the back at both times. The skin is very translucent. It's almost like he painted each individual hair. It's really, really fine. She was his mistress, and also the Medici brothers' mistress. These are the Medici brothers. They owned Florence, Italy, in like the early 1500s. When Da Vinci was there, and he hired Leonardo to paint his mistress, and legend has it that she also became Leonardo's mistress. And then this is his brother, who became his mistress also. So, and to me, he looks like Lord Farquhar in Shrek. That's all I see when I see this one. He is pretty funky looking. Brother was a little bit cuter. Interesting, huh? History is weird. This is a Raphael oil painting, and the oil paint is so translucent, like you can see through the sleeve on her shirt, and the skin is just perfect, and you can see almost each individual hair. Super interesting to look at. Watercolor. Watercolor is one of my favorite paints to work with. It's bound in water-soluble adhesive. It's slightly translucent, meaning you can kind of see through it. It's not good for precise detail. Have you ever tried to do detail with watercolor? And then what does it do? It like bleeds into the next color, right? So it's not super great for detail, and you have to work really quickly before it dries. But I like to work with it. I think it's a really fun media to work with. Then there's acrylic, which I also love to work with. It's a modern synthetic medium. It's really a form of plastic. And so it dries pretty quickly. It doesn't fade. So it's similar to oil paint, except you can clean it up with soap and water. It won't darken or yellow as it ages, and super easy to clean up. So we were going to use acrylic paint when we did our sculptures and stuff like that, which is, I'm so sad we're not going to do but I really love working with it. And then there's ink. Not easy to work with at all. If you've ever tried to work with some ink, it's beautiful to look at. Asian art tradition, not dominating painting in the Western Hemisphere, but it usually comes in black. But there are also some colors. But it's not forgiving if you make a mistake, and it's kind of runny to like watercolor, but dries much, darker. So really, really pretty, but not easy to do. All right. Let's stop this video and then we will start the next one.